Please welcome Andrew Wallerton.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to take a mic. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, fantastic. We're going to turn this into a little bit of a facilitation because everybody's been sitting for a while. So everybody stand up just for a couple of seconds for me, okay? Now I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to be really, really, really honest with me, right? Stay standing if you are on Facebook. If you are on Facebook, stay standing. Okay, so that's pretty much everybody in the room, all right? You can have a seat, thank you very much. So we can see pretty much everybody is... can have a seat, thank you. We can see that everybody is pretty much on Facebook. Now, how much of the youth that we are...
I was just going to ask the question. Active on Facebook or have an account?
Do you have an account on Facebook? I mean, we could layer that with technicality.
On Facebook.
Absolutely. Do you use it?
That's for old people.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Okay? So how much of the youth do you think that we are trying to speak to, that we are trying to lead, is on Facebook?
Zero.
It's not zero. It's not too dire. Okay? It's about 32%. Right? 10 years ago, that number was 78%. So in the time from 10 years ago to when all of us are sitting in the chairs here today, they've left and probably gone into some platforms that we have never even heard of before. Okay? Now, honest answer, right? I want you to raise your hand if you have ever eye-rolled when you heard the term Gen Z. I have. I am guilty of it, okay? And I've worked in corporate long enough to know when that term comes up, people go, oh, Gen Z, okay? But these are the people that are essentially coming into the workforce now, if they haven't arrived already. And Gen Alpha's after them, okay? But between that eye roll and now, what have you done to try to understand them? Not fix them, not manage them. What have you done to try and understand them? Right? Now I've got some cue cards with me purely because there's a couple of words that I just didn't want to get wrong. Okay? Can anybody define the word Riz? That's the reaction I was expecting. Riz. Can anybody define Riz?
I suppose the easiest way is to say someone has game.
Someone has game? Okay.
Charisma.
Very good. All right. Give Kevin a round of applause. Well done, Kevin. So Riz, there we go. So charisma is the definition of Riz, and that was the Oxford Dictionary's Word of the Year in 2023. What about Delulu and Skibbity?
Skibbity crazy.
Same thing, yeah? That went into the Cambridge University's dictionary, all right? And finally, brain rot. Anybody want to take a guess at what brain rot means?
Content that you watch that doesn't actually require you to think.
Exactly. You're just scrolling. You're just consuming content, right? That was the Oxford Dictionary's Word of the Year in 2024, right? And by the time I've said these words, by the time we've just learned the definition, they're probably cringe already, right? By the time you leave here today, if you have teenagers, okay? Now, if we can't win on platforms, on social media platforms, and we can't win with the slang, how do we lead the youth? How do we instill skills within ourselves in order to lead the youth? We take it back to basics, right? And we teach the one universal thing that works for every single person. In all of the destinations I've flown into, in all of the people that I've led, in all of the companies that I've worked with, and even today, right? You take it right back to the basics. You teach people how to connect, right? You teach people to do the thing that's underneath the app. Looking up at the app and learning how to connect, okay? Now, I spent 13 years in commercial aviation before I moved into corporate, and I got to travel extensively, okay? And as I moved up the ranks and became a cabin manager, I would have to stand at the boarding door of an aircraft that seated essentially 400 people, and I'd have to say hello to every single one of them. I didn't have hours to make a connection, I had minutes, seconds, right? Does anybody know how many seconds we make a first impression in? 150 milliseconds. You make a decision on whether you trust, like, or respect someone. Okay? And there are two things essentially that you are judging, right? You are looking at their warmth and you're looking at their competence. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail shortly. But the whole reason of why I'm standing here and I tell you about my aviation career is because I want you to move from being a passenger to becoming a pilot with your leadership. And I want you to help the youth do that as well. Move from passenger to pilot. When I was on board those aircraft, I had all sorts of different passengers. Okay? I had honeymooners, I had the businessman that already decided he didn't like me, didn't like him either. Okay? And every single person, every walk of life. Okay? And it was connection that kept everybody calm. I had a bomb threat on a flight from Washington to Abu Dhabi, and we had to look for a bomb on board the aircraft. But we couldn't let the passengers know, right? Because we haven't decided are we going to divert or not. It was through the connection that I had made in the beginning that kept the crew calm, that kept the passengers unaware of what was going on, because we still had to do the service in first, business and economy, right? So in noticing all of the passengers that I had on board the aircraft, I noticed people are passengers in their lives. They sort of just let things happen and then react, right? We let the youth come to us. We expect opportunities to fall into our lap. We're just a passenger. By connecting with people, you become the pilot. And that's what I want you to do or walk away with today. Now, I don't want you to think, ooh, connection, it's warm and fuzzy. Yeah, it's all the soft, big feelings. No, not at all. So rejection, when somebody feels socially rejected, the same area of the brain lights up as it does in physical pain. That is the dorsal anterior cingulate. Say it with me. Dorsal anterior cingulate. One more time. Dorsal anterior cingulate. The DAC lights up. Now, you wouldn't think that rejection and pouring hot coffee onto your skin is the same thing, but essentially it is. Rejection isn't a metaphor for pain. Rejection is pain. So when a teenager or somebody from some youth says to you, being left out of a WhatsApp chat group, hurt, it physically hurt, right? What about loneliness? Loneliness or feeling lonely, expressing loneliness, will shorten your lifespan to that equal to a smoker. Shorten your lifespan, as in loneliness will cause death, mortality. Right? So, the longest running happiness survey or study that has been running at the Harvard University, it's been running for about 80 years now. The predictor of your health at 80 is the relationships you have at the age of 50. Better predictor than cholesterol, right? Now, you cannot inspire a young person if you haven't learned to connect with them, if they're feeling rejected. You've got to understand them. But how do you do that? And what do you teach them and walk away with yourself today in building connection? It's pretty simple. I want you to hold out your hand. Okay? Now, I want you to use your imagination, right? Calm, we're using our imaginations here, we're getting into it. And I want you to imagine a kaleidoscope that you had as a kid. Right? Those things that turn as you look up. Now everybody imagine the kaleidoscope. Now hold that kaleidoscope and look through it for a second. Indulge me. Indulge me. Come on, we're all going to look silly for a second. Okay? You can put your kaleidoscope down. What happens when you look through that kaleidoscope and you turn it? Changes. Every single time. Okay? So when things aren't going according to plan, or when we look at a certain situation, right, and it's not exactly the way that we want to see it, or it's going against, it's starting to spark something within. Pick up your kaleidoscope and look through it again, because when you change your perspective, you change your approach, right? There is a video on YouTube, and you can go and look. I've used it in training that I've conducted before. There is a video on YouTube called the Gorilla Test. Who's seen it? Yeah? Fantastic. What they tell all the participants to do, right, when you're watching the YouTube video, it was a social experiment. When you're watching the video, they tell you to count how many times the players in the white t-shirts pass the basketball. And you're sitting there and you go, 1, 2, 3, 4. What over 50% of people do not realize is that halfway through the video, a man in a gorilla suit walks straight to the center of the screen. I kid you not. Goes like that and walks out the opposite frame. When you are so focused, or we are so blinded by our preconceived ideas of the youth and the people, those Gen Zs and the people that we manage, we miss the gorilla in the video, right? And what tends to happen, okay, is we end up not seeing the person in front of us. We end up seeing the adjectives that we use to describe them. Lazy, entitled, always on their phones. I take you back to the question I asked you at the beginning. What have you actually done to try and understand them? Not fix them, not manage them, okay? Now, you can't start at just building a relationship. You can't leave it today and go, I'm going to have the most amazing relationship with every youth person that I bump into, okay? It's got to start at a place, and I'll draw it out for everybody as well. There's 4 steps before you can build a relationship with anybody, really. And if you think about where you are in your career and in your life, I'm going to take a little shot in the dark here and say, you got to where you are today because of the relationships that you have with people. Right? Fantastic. Nobody challenged me there. I was like, oh, okay. So what I want you to keep in mind is, in order to get there, that relationship, you are currently co-creating. In your marriage, you are co-creating, more so the men than, I'm joking, we're not going to play that card, but you are co-creating for a harmonious marriage. Think of your friendships. You're co-creating with the friends to have an exciting friendship, right? Maybe you travel with a certain group of friends, maybe you do a dinner club with other groups of friends, but you are co-creating experiences. At work, as a leader, you are co-creating with your team to collaborate. But you can't just get there. It starts at the bottom, and right at the bottom, the first thing that you start with is self-awareness. Okay, I'm going to write it as 1, 2, 3. So, the first thing that you start with is self-awareness. Okay? Yes, I know I have the world's worst handwriting, okay, but indulge me and go with it. So, self-awareness. 95% of people believe that they are self-aware. I hate to break it to you, it's about 10 to 15% that are actually self-aware, okay? How do you become self-aware? There's multiple tools. You can come and chat to me afterwards that will raise your self-awareness, okay? We're aware of our actions and our behaviors a lot of the time, but self-awareness, very different. Once you're aware of yourself, because it starts here, right, you can then start looking at people and go, right, I need to learn how to value the diversity of others around me. When you value diversity, essentially what you are saying is diversity. There we go. It's like Wednesday. When you are valuing diversity, what you are essentially doing is you are looking at the differences of other people and using it as data, not directive. So the quiet person on your team, it doesn't mean that they're not doing the work. The blunt person on your team doesn't necessarily mean that they're rude. Everybody operates differently, okay? So once you have self-awareness and you value diversity, still on time, value diversity, the next thing that you can do is you can build rapport. Now, what do I mean by building rapport? And a lot of people don't get this straight off. Building rapport, that's a P, guys. Okay? When I talk about building rapport, think about the meetings that you go to, right? Picture a meeting that you go to with people that report into you, okay? The next meeting you go to, you are in a meeting with your peers. And the last meeting that you go to is a meeting of people that you report into, okay? You are the exact same person in all three of those meetings, but did you behave exactly the same? No. Why? Authenticity. You behaved differently because the context and environment required you to do that. And you have a different level of rapport with other people, right? You can't go up to if you're an individual contributor, go up to the CEO of a company of 10,000 and people go, great speech, buddy, woo! Okay, nearly high-fived the broken arm. I'm very sorry about that. So only after going through self-awareness can you learn to value diversity. Once you've learned to value diversity, I know myself, I know other people are different, I now adjust my behavior accordingly, and I'm not saying for the entire intervention either. All I'm saying is the approach. Because think of people that are generally shy. If you're a shy person, raise your hand. Okay, fantastic. Imagine I came up to you and said, good morning, woo, and I got all up in your face. Immediately you shut down. But if I stood over here, just lowered my voice a little bit, said, hey, good morning, how are you? Immediately, guardrails down. And once you've built the rapport, and you've gotten through the first impression, or you've gotten through the first connection, that person opens up. And then co-creation is the result out of that built connection, right? Now, just making sure I'm on time here. Remember what I was saying with the warmth and competence cues, right? It's a fine balance with warmth and competence cues, because if you're too warm, but you're useless, we don't trust you. If you're brilliant, but you're cold, we don't like you. That's from Vanessa Van Edwards, who's a behavior researcher. Her book, Cues, as a leader, is probably one of the best books I have ever read in leadership. Okay? Now, we've spoken about co-creation, and there's a couple of thoughts I want to leave you with just before I finish up. And that is Gen Alpha. They're coming. They are the first generation to enter the workforce that has not had to learn without Gen AI. By the time they enter the workforce in 2030, some of you will be leading across 5 generations.
We're all gonna die.
That too. That too. It could be we're all going to die, or we're all going to die, okay? Some of you will be leading across 5 generations. And unfortunately, the expired leadership skill of one size fits all is gone. It's over. It's one size fits one. And that starts with connection. Right? Now, from passenger to pilot, remember to take the controls using that. And I explore that more with frameworks that are backed in behavioral science. And when you are getting frustrated or you're about to roll your eyes at the youth because you just want them, you can see it. I just want you to grab this opportunity. I'm creating space for you. And they're not taking it. Pick up your kaleidoscope, look through it again, change your perspective, and change your approach. If you want to know more, particularly around the science of behavior, organizational behavior, that's what I studied in, come and scan my QR code afterwards. It's not just about grabbing your details. You can play games. You can find out about the science. You can look where you can come and watch me speak again. But I'd love to stay connected, which you can do through scanning the QR code as well. It's my little hub that will come up on your mobile phone. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are built fundamentally to connect. Don't forget that. Your secret weapon is in your approach. Thank you.